So there was a tweet that went out, and in response to the tweet, which we'll show you in a second, this article was released. And listen to this headline. Okay, boomer, you're hoarding your nest egg, but your kids need financial help now. When I will be honest, when I read this headline, I had a visceral response. I was like, yeah, boomer, what are you doing? But then we read the article. We actually went through the body, and what the article said was very different than the title that was laid out.
Well, you see, they acknowledge that this came from a viral X post asking whether to give your beneficiaries the money today or let them wait to inherit it, and has drawn more than 10 million views. Very important topic.
Very important.
Now, the rest of the story, before we actually get into the subject matter and give the answers, why don't you share with the actual tweet that started this conversation?
This is the tweet that led to this article headline. It said, hey, just wrapped a client meeting. It was a female, 73 and healthy, has 2 adult kids aged 42 and 47, 13-year-old grandson. Plenty of money for her to have a comfortable retirement. The conversation was mostly focused on estate planning and encouraging her to feel okay giving money to her adult kids now. Here's what I said to her. Think about life 20 years from now. You're 93 years old. Your kids are in their 60s and your grandson is 33. Then they'll inherit your money. However, at that time, everyone is fairly settled into who they are and what they will become. Now, compare that with a gift today. Your kids are at a place in their lives where a financial gift can have a trajectory-altering impact. Consider the ripple effects of removing a bit of financial stress from the parents of a 13-year-old. I'll help ensure your needs are met for the rest of your life, but if you see an opportunity to help people who matter to you, seize it. I love that, Brian. I think that's incredibly well said.
No, you can tell. Adam, fellow financial planner, obviously doing good work out there, trying to help people have these hard life decisions. This is an important one. We spend a lot of content talking about how hard the messy middle is. And for those of you who don't know, the messy middle is when you're typically in your late 20s all the way up to your early 40s, where you're short on time, you're short on money, because let's face it, you've got a marriage, you've got kids, you've got job responsibilities. There's a lot going on that makes life really hard. Meanwhile, if you're a parent, and maybe you are coming into the later parts, you're no longer working, you're retired, and you're starting to analyze and look at your assets and go, man, there's a lot here. Should I help my children and my adult children make life a little bit easier? I love the way Adam had this conversation in the tweet. Don't love the headline that it created in the discussion, but we want to kind of jump in and give our own thoughts on how you navigate this hard decision well.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. A lot of very astute, sound financial decision makers find themselves in a place, and Brian, I'm gonna steal one of your lines here. There's a difference in being a miser and being a maximizer, and a lot of financial mutants lose track of that. Well, here's what we really, really love about this tweet. At the end of the day, we really want you to enjoy your money while you're still around. The idea is not for most folks to save up all this money and then when you leave this earth, you leave it to the generations behind you. There is some balance between enjoying the fruits of your labor while you are here, but also making sure that you don't enjoy them so much that you run out prematurely.
Yeah, I also like that this is a good indicator or an example of being a healthy financial support for your loved ones. Not the economic outpatient care that you remember in Millionaire Next Door, when they talk about traits of successful people, one of the key traits is making sure your adult children aren't so needy to your financial life that they never stand on their own 2 feet and they actually become an obligation to you and they actually hurt your financial life. So we like to jump in and talk about how do you do this right? Because in a lot of ways, we want our children. We always love our children. We want them to be the best versions of themselves, but we also want to share our success. So how do we kind of bring these things together where everybody comes out on the other side in a healthy way?
Yeah, we think that when you're thinking through this, like how do I help them? What are the right ways to think about this? There are really 2 questions that you ought to triage right at the very front. On the forefront of your thinking ought to be these 2 questions. Number 1, can I help? We'll dive into like what that means. How do you assess can I help? And number 2, what's the best way to help? Because frankly, there are a number of different ways, and your kids are different people at different stages in your life. It looks very different when your children are 18 versus when your children are 48. By the time your kids get into their 40s, there's likely a chance they've already become the people that they will be. So you have to triage and assess what is the best way for me to help where they are in their current journey.